My, what do we have here? A car show. We'll take a look around in between videos here. Get out of my way. Uh-oh, here comes the hottest car in the show. Do a burnout for the camera. You can do it.
Won't burn out, believe me.
Can you say I'm retired? Good Lord. Give that man a beer. Wonder how many miles to the gallon this gets. Okay, we're going to take a test drive in the Ford Fusion. We'll also be looking at this 2015 Volkswagen Jetta Turbo. And this is what the Fusion looks like for the 2014 and 2015 model year. And here's the side view, the rear view. And this is a nice looking car, by the way, but I think it's even better looking because of this, I think it's bronze metallic paint. I don't know what color they call this, but it is good looking. And another view from the front. And if that grille looks familiar, we'll be talking about that later on in the video. Now normally before I get a vehicle, I'll read up on all the specs to see what it is I'm driving, what engines are offered, but I don't get that many Fords, and I just didn't have time. So the fact is, I know absolutely nothing zippo about the Fusion line. And that makes it interesting, so that means for the first day I'm going to be driving blind, just like many customers would be. So with that in mind, let's hop in and see what we have here. Okay, we'll take a look at the interior. The gauge cluster is pretty nice looking, lots of good information here, easy to read. No column stalks for the lighting. Controls here on the dash where I think it belongs myself. The console could be bigger, but I guess it's adequate for the room inside. Two decent cup holders. Glove box size is adequate. The automatic dimming mirror has no disconnect switch, so if you want to turn it off in heavy city traffic, like I do, you'll need to put a piece of tape over the sensor hole. Why can't they offer an on and off switch? Oh well, they don't, so that's a solution. Climate controls could be simpler, but simple enough. Fan speed, on and off, temperature. You'll figure these out over time. I haven't got figured out what this does. At the moment, it doesn't do anything, even when I'm driving. I think it has something to do with the radio. And the radio controls on this model are pretty easy to use. Uh-oh, someone didn't pay the bill for the satellite radio. We got to do something about this because I am not listening to AM/FM. No. For the rear seats, you got plenty of headroom. A little tight on the legroom, but the front seats are back. Got a very nice full-size trunk. And a real spare tire. You know, the only complaint I found so far is underneath the door, the rocker panel design, which is way too thick. Your pants rub on the outside when you get out, and if this has dirt or mud on it, your pants are going to get filthy. A complaint I'm finding about 40% of the cars I'm driving nowadays. There's got to be a better way. Now at the moment I have absolutely no clue what engine's under the hood. That's what makes it interesting. We'll just give it a little run and see if I can guess. Nice brakes. Well, from the sound, this is obviously a very tiny engine, but it's obviously turbocharged too. So when I get the window sticker, I'll have to look at the spec sheet and see exactly what we're driving here. I'm told they have 5 different engines, so it should be interesting. Now I noticed every time I stop the vehicle at a light, the air conditioning cuts out and the motor dies. So obviously we have one of those start-stop things to save fuel, which will be fine, except the air conditioning goes down so low, I'm roasting. It's only 80 degrees outside, and I'm roasting. Now, if I had this car back in August when it was 116 degrees outside, I'd probably be suffocating. So I gotta find out how to disconnect this annoying feature. One of my pet peeves is having to fool around with an owner's manual to find out how to open the hood of a car, because the engineers couldn't give a simple lever that you could find without having your hand run up and down and get hot and oily. They go to engineering school to design stuff like this. Amazing. Just for reference, here's the hood release by the left headlight, exactly where it shouldn't be, but now you know. Okay, this is day 2, and I read up on all the spec sheets, got the window sticker, etc. There are 5 different engines available in this car. 2 of them are hybrids. We won't talk about that. That's a separate video. So let's talk about the gasoline engines. Base engine is a 175 horsepower 4-cylinder, 2.5 liters, rated at 22 to 34 miles per gallon. Top of the line is a 2.0 turbo, putting out 240 horsepower, rated at 22 to 33 miles per gallon, about the same as the base engine. Now this is the middle of the road power plant, a tiny 1.5 liter turbo, putting out to 181 horsepower, getting the best gas mileage of the trio at 23 to 36 miles per gallon rating, average of 28. I'll be watching the computer to see if it lives up to those specs. Now if you want to disconnect that annoying start-stop system, which supposedly saves gas, yeah, well maybe, here's the button right here. Press it, it goes away. That's the good news. The bad news is you have to do this every time you start the car, which gives you 2 things to do instead of 1. I'd like to see it where you just hit it if you want to have it on, but it doesn't work that way. Sorry. And with a little bit of maneuvering, I did manage to get the satellite radio working. Doesn't matter how. You know, daily driving, the Fusion's very pleasant to drive. The steering's a little light, but responsive. The ride's very comfortable. Excellent brakes, as I mentioned earlier. Good driving position. It'll make a very nice road car. Now about this front nose, it's no secret in the industry that this grille is almost a carbon copy of what's on the Aston Martin sports car. In fact, I'll show you the 2 side by side. Here's the Ford. No, this is the real Aston Martin. So how did this happen exactly? Well, it appears that the designer who did the Aston Martin back in the early 60s also did this car here. Apparently he's been around for a while. Now how and why is a different story. We just don't know. There's a rumor that he's retiring soon and wanted to have his legacy plastered on mass-produced cars. Maybe so, maybe not. But the bottom line is, this is the grille we get. Most people don't even know what an Aston Martin is anyway, so it doesn't matter. What matters is, does this car sell, and is it good looking? And it's good looking, and it's selling well, so that's all Ford cares about. And one more look from afar. This is a handsome looking car with few complaints. So that's all I can tell you. Now the base car with the base engine runs around $22,000, and that's a good buy. However, if you really enjoy driving, I suggest you move up to the 1.5 liter turbo engine. It's quicker, gets better fuel economy, and far more pleasant to drive with lots of bottom end torque. Now the 1.5 turbo car doesn't cost much more, $23,935 to be exact. We did have $3,100 worth of options. We had the luxury package with heated front seats, reverse sensing system, rear inflatable seat belts, the start-stop system, which I definitely don't want, and I don't think you do either. So it was fluffed up to $27,890. But as I've said, the $23,000, $935 car is just as good. You really don't need all those options. Now if you want to move up to the high-performance 240 horsepower car, that's fine, but keep in mind, with more power, you use more fuel. And I've seen the stickers on those reach the $35,000 bracket. And frankly, for 35 grand, I'd rather move up to a compact Audi or BMW, but that's me, maybe not you. I think overall the 1.5 liter turbo car is more practical and all you really need. But of course the choice is always yours. Overall the Fusion's a nice car to drive, even more so if you have the proper engine ordered. If you're looking for a mid-size sedan, this is definitely worth checking out on your list.
I've never seen a motor. Texas is a place I really love to be.
So now we'll be taking a drive in the 2015 Volkswagen Jetta. From a styling standpoint, this is sort of a plain Jane car that didn't attract too much attention on the street. This silver paint looks a bit dull, but this car does look nice and red. Now the base engine is a 2-liter putting out 115 horsepower rated at 25 to 34 miles per gallon. That's strictly for going to church and delivering pizzas. There are more exciting engines in the VW line here. I had the 1.8 liter turbo putting out 170 horsepower. Gets better gas mileage too at 25 to 37 miles per gallon. There's also an excellent turbo diesel engine that pulls like a tractor and gets up to 45 miles per gallon on the freeway. However, it's $2,500 extra, and with diesel running 75 cents per gallon more at this time, it'll run about 80,000 miles before it pays for itself. But it's still a great engine to drive. We get a nice large trunk here, and a spare tire, more than adequate seat room in the rear. The interior is nothing fancy, but clean and functional. A nice simple gauge cluster. A perfect climate control system the way it should be, 3 simple knobs. Temperature, fan speed, and direction. Doesn't get any better than that. This is what we should be seeing on all cars, not just some cars. Very simple radio and navigation system. Some things I didn't like: the glove box is too small. Looks big when it's open, but there's not much room, trust me. The console space is pretty much useless. Come on guys, you could have done better than this. Got some cup holders here. I found this navigation system to be useless. You got all these streets with no names. Perhaps there's something in the owner's manual I overlooked, but I shouldn't have to look in the owner's manual. I mean, who wants to look at navigation without street names anyway? Well, there's one street name. Yippee. Me no like. And my biggest beef of all, the rocker panel bodywork under the door is way too wide. Your pants going to rub on this every time you get out of the car. If you live where there's a lot of rain and mud, you're going to have a lot of dirt on your pants. Totally unnecessary. Now the sporty car doesn't have paddle shifters on the steering wheel, but you don't need it. You just drop the shifter down in the sport mode and the transmission does the sporty shifting for you. It works so well, I don't miss the paddle shifters on the steering wheel. You don't need it, so why have it? This little turbo engine is plenty quick. Nice brakes, by the way. The cornering ability of this Jetta is excellent. While it's not a BMW, it comes close. Very sporting, and the steering feel is perfect. Very tight turning circle too. Now let's take a look at the price sticker. Yes, you can find a Jetta on the lot for around $17,000. The strippers with that small engine I told you about. But there aren't too many on the lot. Most of these are loaded up like mine. And I'm not going to go over all the options. Most of the stuff was standard. So we got a $25,465 price tag, which isn't bad for a sporting German car. Or should we say sporting Mexican car, since A lot of these parts are assembled in Mexico. Look, here's my take. If you're looking for a transportation car to go from point A to point B, I say just stick to the Toyotas and Hondas. On the other hand, if you want a sporting car with great steering, handling, braking, real performance, fast, yet economical to own and drive, the VW Jetta Turbo is certainly worth a look. It's a very pleasant car to drive. And that turbo diesel's not a bad engine either. So if you're looking for a sedan under $25,000, you might want to test drive one of these before you look at something else.